everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jess and today's video is going to be another Defeat the TBR update. I'm really excited for this update. So as you guys know, I finished off last month reading Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. I absolutely loved it. You guys didn't get to see my full opinions by the end of the month, but yeah, I loved it. Then I finished the first book that I finished this month was Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. I listened to this on the Libby app through my library and I absolutely loved this. It was the second book in the Rebel of the Sand series. Super glad that I got to read / listen to the second one in this series, the second book in this series. I'm absolutely loving it. It's like such a great series. And I think it's actually really well done. I really enjoy it. There's some beautiful plot points coming in now. I think it is classed as a young adult, but there's some good plot points coming in now. There's also a slight romance as well, but it's not the centre of the plot. Yeah, it's just really great, and I'm really enjoying this book actually. And I'm quite someone now who doesn't really read a lot of young adult anymore. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it and I'm so surprised that I'm enjoying it so much. Now it's kind of difficult for me with library books because technically I have finished a book, so it will go towards my like end of year total of books that I have read. However, in terms of Defeat the TBR, it doesn't really do much for defeating the TBR unless I have overbrought, then I can use it to cancel out a book that I've brought. But I haven't done that this month. And that is because after I finish Traitor to the Throne, I actually took one of you guys' comments. If I can pop it up on the screen, I will. But yeah, I took one of you guys' comments to do an unhaul. Now, I'm not very good at unhauling books. I just sit there and I think, oh, what if one day I do want to read it and I've just gotten rid of it and I end up rebuying it? But that is the worst case scenario. And a lot of the time I find a lot of my books from charity shops, and a lot of my books on my bookshelves, as I mentioned in the last update, are books that I don't actually read anymore or I have little interest in. I think there's some at my family home that I could get rid of actually, like unhaul quite a few from my bookshelf in my family home. However, for now I just decluttered the ones that are here at the uni house, and although they don't look empty, they definitely look a lot better. And I can tell you, like reading through the spines, I know that I'm going to get to them or plan to get to them at some point, all of the books that are left on there. So let's go through the books that I unhauled this month. I am unhauling The Adventure of the Six Napoleons and Other Stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is just because I started reading this and I just wasn't enjoying it. I mean, I didn't get that far through, admittedly. I got to page 9, but I just was so bored. And then when I was looking at the other, I skimmed like to a different story and I started that one and I was still bored. And I just thought, you know what, short stories I find really difficult. Throne of Glass has the Assassin's Blade book, which is the short story book that you read before the series, and I really struggled to get through that. And although I love Sherlock Holmes, I have watched the entire series, and I very rarely read a book after I've watched a film or like the episodes of it. I'm also unhauling Adele by Sean Smith. There was one point where I was super interested in reading a lot more non-fiction and getting to know more about Adele, but I follow Adele on social media and I feel as though, you know, her newest album kind of tells the story, and also I think I'd be more interested to hear it from her own point of view, and I think I've heard a lot of that through Instagram and other forms of social media, that I'm just not really interested in reading this anymore. I am also unhauling The No by Martina Cole. This is just because I don't think I'm interested in this one. It is to do with like kids and like a marriage and kids, and I am not really into kind of like marital thrillers, so I don't think I'm going to enjoy this one this much. And also when I read the blurb, just nothing really kind of took my interest that much. Like it didn't grip me, it didn't make me feel like I want to read it, and that's just a sure sign that I probably will never get around to it. Drop Shot by Harlan Coben. This is because I brought this in a time when I had just discovered Harlan Coben and I wanted to buy everything that I could from this author because it reminded me of Tess Grettison's writing. And if you guys don't know, I do love Tess Grettison. Hang on, the sun's coming out so you can see the lines of my blind on my face. I think when I first brought it from a charity shop, I was excited about it but not super excited about it, and over time I've just lost interest. Again, it doesn't sound very interesting on the back, and yeah, I'm not really looking forward to reading this anymore. The Butterfly Box by Santa Montefiore, I think that's how I say the surname. yes, this one does sound like it's going to be really, really good and like quite pretty and very, very much atmospheric. However, I just know that this sounds a little bit not like what I would usually read, and I think it would take me a very, very long time to read. And it's also very low down on my priority list. Like, this has a romance in it. I think it's more like literary fiction, like a romance literary fiction, if that makes any sense. This has a touch of romance in, but I've never chosen to read it, and I just don't think I'm going to get round to it. I think it'll be something that sits on my shelves for a very, very long time. I'm also unhauling City of Brass. This is a fantasy book. This one is probably the one that I feel most guilty about unhauling, because I was so excited for this. I brought it from Waterstones. I heard loads of people absolutely loved this series by S.A. Chakraborty, and I've never read anything by this author. However, I was 85 pages through this and I was so bored. And I know it takes, and you know, I always say this as well, like when I say I'm bored of a book, I'm like, oh, it normally takes for a fantasy about 100 pages to get into the story and be settled. This was just a whole lot of nothing happening, and I have a feeling that this book may just be loads and loads of build up for the second book and the third book to then be able to take place, and it's not my type of writing. I just don't find the most joy out of reading super slow books. There is epic high fantasies that I love reading and I'm so engaged with, for example the Robin Hobb series. That is super slow paced, but I'm so engaged because I love the characters. However, with this I just don't have a care for the characters. I'm also unhauling The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This is going to have some controversy. This is written all in emails, and I thought, oh, that's so interesting, it sounds really great, it sounds like a great way to read something. No, it was so boring to me again. Like, I really couldn't get into this. I think I got 100 pages in before I decided I'm actually just going to put this down, because I was putting myself in a reading slump trying to read this book. That's how bored I was, and I think this book is just for certain people, not for others. I don't know if it's classified as a cozy mystery. Maybe that could be what it is. I'm not sure. But yeah, I just could not get along with this writing style. I couldn't get along with the format. I found it really difficult, and I found it super boring. And also the use of the emails just decharacterizes a lot of characters, and I think I read books a lot for the characters in it. So if the characters aren't well developed, then I usually don't enjoy it, and this just really stops you from having a well developed character from just having email chains. And then finally I unhauled one of my Kindle books, and that is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I was so excited for this book, but I have tried to read it. It's another fantasy, and again I'm like kind of on the edge about decluttering and unhauling fantasy, because at the moment I'm going for a humongous fantasy stage, and I've always loved fantasy. I've always read a lot of fantasy, but I just cannot get along with this one. Again, it's really slow. I think I was 150 pages in and I still wasn't enjoying it. Also, I have just chosen to unhaul it from my Kindle shelves. It no longer is on my Kindle shelves. If you guys are curious about any of these books, they will be on my Vinted for another week or two. If you live in the UK, they are on my Vinted, but if I brought them from a charity shop, they're on there for £1, which is the minimum that you can put the price of them on there. Like, the minimum price that you can put on Vinted is £1. So if you live in the UK and you would like any of these, then please just have a look at my Vinted. It's just Beauty with Jess. They are on my Vinted. They'll be on there for another week before I end up donating them to charity. So yeah, they're up there to see if I can just get a little bit of money back, but at the same time, if I can't, I am just going to donate them, because like I said, I don't have much time until I move now, so I don't want to have a group of things that I'm trying to sell whilst I'm trying to move, because that's just really stressful. Then I went to London with my partner and I went into a couple of shops. So I went into I forgot what this store is called, but I was so excited. I heard about it from actually another booktuber, and they had a 3 for 2 deal on the Sarah J Maas Throne of Glass series. Now I only ended up buying 3. I was going to buy 5, but you couldn't mix and match the 3 for 2 with the manga, and I didn't have 3 other books. I only have 2 other books in the series that I need at the end of this, so I ended up picking up Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas, Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms, which just leaves me Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash to pick up elsewhere with the new covers and the new spines, and I'm super excited. I also cannot wait to put these all on a shelf together. Like, I think they're gonna look epic. Then I went to my library and I picked up a couple of books that I was interested in. I think I picked up Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I also picked up this, Fence Volume 1 by Jonah the Mad and Jonah LaFontaine. I think that's how I say it. But yeah, I picked up volume 1 and I read this straight away. This was just a nice, quick, easy read to break up, I don't know, like to break up my reading. Then also when I was in London, I purchased 2 books. Now, one of these don't count because this is just a special edition of a book that I've already read, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I own It Starts With Us in hardback. My brother and his girlfriend got it for me for Christmas, so I brought this beautiful edition in foils when I was in London with my partner, and look at it. It's got the orchid, the crushed orchid petals on the side, and I'm just so happy. Look at that. Guys, you can't tell me you could resist that, right? I'm not someone who buys special editions that often, but I have given out my paperback of It Ends With Us and I haven't had it back in a while, so I'm not sure if I'm going to see it. And honestly, I'm more than happy for that person to keep it, because then it gives me more of an excuse to justify my purchase. And then I brought myself Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I think this had £3 off. And I also got a free pin badge I'm going to put on my lanyard at school. So yeah, look how pretty this edition is. Which brings us nicely on to my next read. So next I read Happy Place, sat on the beach. I went to the beach with my partner. I read half of it at the beach, and then I read the second half on the Sunday, and I had a great time reading this. I cried reading this. I felt super seen. Like, the main character is so, you know, anxious about herself and very self-doubting, and I feel like that is so relatable for a lot of people. I end up giving this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I would highly recommend you read this. This is one of the absolute best writes from Emily Henry. I've almost read everything from hers. I think I just have to read People We Meet on Vacation. And then I finally finished the second half of How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. I brought this in January of this year with some Christmas gift cards, and I was super excited about this book. And let me tell you, the first half of it was actually really good. Like, there was nothing wrong with the first half. It was good. But then once you get past the like page 160, 150 mark, it just starts getting very boring and super repetitive and into a different storyline, and it's just not as good. And I don't know how to explain it. It's like the characterization of our main character kind of just dulled out a lot, and it was just really difficult to root for this character and to feel as like connected to them as you did at the first half. And I have read some Goodreads reviews that completely agree with what I'm saying here. So in the end, I think I'm going to give this 2 stars, which is super disappointing, but I can't even give it a 3-star because the last half of this book was just pain to read. Like, it was painful. And then finally, I am filming this on the 23rd of May, so I may have to add a extra snippet into the end if I read another book, but my reading is super slow at the moment, unfortunately. I am currently reading, and will definitely finish in the next couple of days, Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas. As I'm sure you guys noticed when I hauled them. If you can see, I am annotating this one as well. Oh my goodness, guys. One thing that Sarah J Maas does really well is there is consequences for characters' actions. There is consequences, and there's unstable emotions based on events that happen, and these characters, boy, do they feel it. They feel these things that happen, and they feel these emotions. And I would say I'm guilty of this as well. Like, I enjoy books where the characters don't feel the pain of what the events that have happened. But I've literally cried 3 times. I think there was a space in this where there was 60 pages and I cried 3 times within 60 pages. Those are all the books that I have unhauled and read this month, which leaves us on a total of 69 books on my TBR. I have 69 books on my TBR. That is the lowest that I have seen my TBR since I started recording my TBR, and the amount of things I have on it. So yes, I am very chuffed, to say the least, about how many I have managed to go down by. And I know a majority of that is because of the unhaul, but also a lot of it isn't. I have been reading a lot this year, I feel. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I'd like to see more videos from me, and I'll catch you guys all in my next one. Bye.